Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk Bourbon. I'm John.
I'm James.
And we have a special guest with us today. We're doing something that we like to call the Industry Spotlight, where we spotlight different people of importance, at least in our world in Kentucky, around bourbon. And we think Chris is one of them.
Yes, so we're here at actually one of my favorite parts of Bourbon on Rye, the Seltzer Club. Fell in love with that many years ago because you ran that amazing special for the $5 Evan Hill Bottled and Bond and Budweiser here. Oh, it was great. It was a great deal.
Yeah. So some people may think of Chris Evans to be Captain America, but we call this Chris Evans Captain Bourbon for a reason.
Captain Bourbon.
So, that's cool. So Chris, tell us a little bit about your bar here. And actually, before that, I know you've been in bourbon for a long time. So
I really like the interaction with people. I think that's where it started. I got into bourbon when we opened up the Grass Tavern in 2007. I drank a lot of makers. I'm not going to say I was a bourbon guy at the time. And I feel like the expectation of me to be a bourbon snob aficionado is kind of what pushed me there. Everybody just kind of started telling everybody that, and I was like, oh shit, I better study up. By study up, I mean drink a lot. I think that's the best way to know about bourbon is to come up and tell.
Try different stuff. We talk about that all the time, so we're on board with that.
Yeah. So we did 10 years with the Grass Tavern, awesome bar. Put together quite a bourbon collection. It was a lot of fun. I got an opportunity to come and open this one up with James and jumped. I think Bluegrass Tavern was getting a little stale for me at the time. It was time to move on. It was probably past time to move on. And this is the perfect thing to move on to.
It's a great location too. You've got a lot of historical reference with this building and this bar.
I used to work here when it was Bellini's too.
Oh wow.
The original tile work on the floor.
I spent months redoing a lot of the busted tiles. It was a tough gig.
And now you actually have something pretty out your front door. So
I know, it's gorgeous out there. And that's going to help. And I really think that that hotel, that project is a good metaphor for where we are in Lexington right now. We need that hotel. And we need the hotel rooms, the jobs, the more restaurants, more bars. And we've been seeing the restaurant and bar industry grow just in downtown. Huge since I started working downtown. I think I started at Redmond's in 2003, and that was about it. It was Redmond's, Cheapside, and Rosebud. That was about it. There were a couple spots over here. The Dane was here, but that didn't come till a little later, and it was gone just as quick. There wasn't much. Now there seems to be a really good restaurant or bar on just about every corner. It's on the one hand, it's scary. There's a lot of competition out there. You've got to have good specials. You've got to have good cocktails. You've got to know what you're talking about. But then there's also the reason we have so many bars and restaurants and you need a hotel room is this bourbon industry.
Urban tourism.
I never thought it would get like this. I've seen this thing happening from the beginning. It's been really cool to watch. I never thought of the tourism aspect of it, and here we are. I'd say half of my customers are in from out of town. They're here for bourbon, or they're stopping through on their way and they decide to stop here because of the distilleries. A lot of 40th birthday parties, or Buffalo Trace tours, or stuff like that. So that's great for this area.
You took the leap and you became sort of an entrepreneur and an owner in the bar atmosphere. What was your, what's your vision for Bourbon on Rye? I know you guys have a pretty distinctive vibe and a feel between Seltzer Club and Bourbon on Rye and how you guys did it. But what was your kind of thought process behind how you wanted to differentiate?
We got this opportunity for a really cool building. A lot of the vibe, and a lot of this is James. I'm responsible for cocktails, for the kind of the front of the house stuff, the face man stuff, if you will. A tremendous amount of this goes to James. the visual aspect, kind of creating a lot of this vibe, a lot of this feel. And we've both been at it, we've both been working at it. You know what? Kind of just let opportunity and the building dictate where it's going to go. And it's such a neat place. You just kind of let it speak for itself.
Well, you guys had a really neat concept with the seltzers and having cracked, seltzer cocktails. You don't really see that a lot, especially at a lot of bars.
No, and oddly enough, historically, you wouldn't have seen that in bars when this is how you get seltzer. In fact, that would have been how I sent you home with seltzer. Here, it would have been like a keg, like a soda jerk, soda fountain. No bar. I mean, like maybe a nice restaurant or something would bring one of those to sit at your table while you're eating, so you could have seltzer with whatever. But a bartender privately used it. It's just a really cool thing. We've got a bunch of them. We know how to fill them. They're really cool. They're really cool. Yeah.
So you've been tending bar how many years now?
I'd say close to 20, if not at 20. Yeah.
So when you started, what was the first cocktail you made that you said, I could really do this job?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say honestly, it was a White Russian. Yeah.
So you get the
It
juice
was a White Russian, and then I learned how to add a little bit of Coca-Cola to it and make it a Colorado Bulldog, and that just totally blew my mind.
So Colorado Bulldog.
Oh man, and that's the way. That's the way. It's far better than White Russian. Don't tell Lavassi.
Okay, YouTube, you're hearing it here first.
I mean, you're adding shit.
So, and along those lines, I mean, that's a pretty bold move to be in the bartender world. We're seeing for, the better part of 20 years, which is a career, folks. And I mean, for that, I mean, do you think it's hard to be a thriving bartender? I mean, do you think to make it as a bartender, you really got to find your niche and your group?
I think that's more it. I think you just got to find who's going to work with you best. Some people do better in a corporate environment, and you could make a living in a corporate bar. You make a decent living, and it's not, if you're willing to, if you can negotiate for yourself and you can do your job well, it pays pretty well. And really it varies from where you are. If you're, I think you can do better in an independent downtown place. That's just my thought.
That's the reason you're in it.
Mainly because I don't work well either. I use language.
And you're sort of like a Colorado Bulldog.
Right.
So I know, and part of what you've done, and everyone, Chris is a really good mixologist if you haven't caught that already. So he knows how to make a variety of cocktails, especially around bourbon. How many bourbons do you guys have at this stage?
I don't know. That's one of the things that I really didn't want to do when we came here is get into
Put a
swinging
number on it.
contests.
Yeah.
What kind of
With
bourbon we
others.
have. We have an exceptional collection.
You do.
We've got
Vintage,
some really
so-
good stuff. Yeah, and I don't know how many. If you want to come in and count them, you're more than welcome to. That was something.
Come and have a drink and count them, folks. That's what he said.
At the tavern, it was just really all about having the most bourbon. I'm never going to be able to compete with that again. I had 10 years before the industry was what it is now to put that collection together. It's not happening again. You're not going to find 2-3 bottles of Very Old Scout 19 year at a time like I did there. So you know what I mean? It's gone. That collection's already done. Bourbon wise, I'm more focused on barrel selects. I'd rather the majority of my bourbon collection be made up by barrels that I selected. I think that's a far more intimate experience when it comes to bourbon.
And they're like snowflakes. They're all different.
Exactly. So we can do this all day. I can have 10 of one brand and give you, a flight that'll blow your mind.
So which distillery you find gives you the most distinct products that you can play with?
They all have strengths and weaknesses, and what some lead with quality might lose in availability, vice versa, and that's a tough one to even apply quality to it. We've had really good dealings with Wild Turkey. I love dealing with Eddie. He's awesome. If you want to try 12 barrels, you can. If you want to buy 6
We've
of
been
them,
there.
that's fine. He doesn't care. I really like Knob Creek's Girl program. I hope they get it back together soon. There's things I don't like about it, but I think their product's pretty killer at that level. I think it's pretty killer, every level. They're exceptional.
We were talking earlier, you got a 13-year-old coming in?
15-year-old.
15-year-old.
I mean,
Yeah.
for Girl Select, and I know they're out there, but that's great.
That's tough.
But it makes me, I don't want to stand in line for limited edition stuff when I can just go buy a really good barrel myself.
That you know you like, you
Yeah.
should taste.
And I can sell it to you for, $6 an ounce as opposed to $8 or whatever I have to charge for some limited edition, $400, signed in the mold, whatever. Yeah, I'm kind of over that.
Going back to some of the bartending stuff, Chris, I know you have a lot of different things that you've done, smoking, infusions. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, what do you think that's very helpful to enhance around bourbon as a base, or?
I'll level with you. I'm kind of old to be getting into the cocktail game. This is new to me. When I was bartending before, it was just bourbon. It was I call it Keenan bartending. It's pretty basic stuff: plastic cups, bourbon and Coke, etc. And then I did 10 years just bourbon. I think we had like a couple cocktails, nothing big. Cocktails are kind of new to me. I'm really just trying to keep up. Smoke infusions are cool. Makes for a great effect.
So when you say infusion, what does that mean? What do you do?
When you're using alcohol to extract a flavor, and you get it more with letting strawberries sit in a jar of vodka, or lemon peels in very neutral spirit, or blackberries in bourbon, or mint in bourbon, and use
Wild
the
Turkey
alcohol.
101 actually does work. We can figure that out.
Yeah.
Again, story on that, I brought in an infusion, we played around with it, and you obviously know what you're talking about because you picked a couple of ingredients I never would have thought of, and it was a nice little cocktail.
So you'll let those ingredients sit in the bourbon or the alcohol, and then when it's ready, or when you think it's ready, then you would just strain out the ingredients and then serve the alcohol.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Limoncello, orangecello, those are the basics that come to mind with an infusion. It takes about a month. Then you cut it with simple syrup, make it nice and syrupy and thick. I've got a really good orangecello made with Madagascar vanilla. We'll try when this is done. It's real sweet and syrupy, but it's supposed to be.
Starting to see more smoked cocktails too, and I know that's something that you dealt with. So what's kind of the secret around that? I mean, do you think that can overwhelm the flavor of bourbon, or?
I think the fad of smoked cocktails is closing. I think it's very complicated, and it was something that the first few times people did it, it was really neat. It's a great effect, and if it's in the right context, I think it's a great addition. But I think as far as the every bartender having smoked a cocktail, I think that's kind of going away, and that's cool. I mean, they're paid. Yeah,
It seems like that's
the first one I saw, and you didn't have the fancy smoker that you have now. You actually burned it.
Smoked on the board.
Yeah, it was like 46 and cherry or something like that.
But we use it primarily for a cocktail with coffee and smokes. It's basically an espresso Manhattan, smoked with tobacco, and it's pretty killer. Yeah, it's pretty killer. It's coffee and cigarette with a Manhattan. It's
pretty much like bar life.
It's kind of perfect.
Well, one of the things that I think the first time I ever had it with Chris was I really like different elements of citrus, like grapefruit or lime or lemon with bourbon, especially in the summertime. I'm not a big bourbon cocktail person in the winter. I like it just neat and high proof and but in the summertime I like more of a refreshing, kind of cut it with citrus, and I think citrus is a good balance. But I think one of the first things that the first time I was ever introduced to it was when you torched an orange peel and gave that extra element. So talk about that. Is that the property of kind of torching citrus in a cocktail?
You can. The citrus oil, orange, lemon peel, it's pretty flammable. A lot of that's for effect. In fact, I think, you get a little bit of a caramelized flavor from it, but a lot of it's for effect. I would never, anytime I do a citrus garnish, I always squeeze it over the drink and try to express that oil into the drink or on top of it. I think that's the whole point. There's some cocktails that call for you to express the oil, rim the glass, and then throw the fruit away. You know, the actual fruit itself diminishes it. You just want that little essence. Sometimes flaming it makes a difference. Sometimes it does. It just depends on what you're doing.
And I know some people in the industry now are kind of getting into essential oils.
Yeah.
What's that kind of all about?
I mean, essential oils are basically concentrated flavor. You know, it's the basis of whatever ingredient you're doing. So it's I think more on the bar bitters, where you can add, like, say, a walnut element or a mint element or something like that with just a dropper and get all of this.
Instead of full-on infusion, you're
Right.
kind of adding components.
And it's just another way to deliver flavor. But cocktails are a balance between booze, sugar, and acid. It's that simple. You can go outside. I mean, you can grab other pieces to make those elements complex, but it's really alcohol, sugar, and acid. So sometimes that acid's just a little sprig of lemon peel. Sometimes it's that lemon bitters we used earlier. Sometimes it's full on squeeze of lemon juice. It just depends. Depends on the alcohol. Depends on the sugar.
Just
Actually,
finding out
house made bitters here too.
We make a lot of bitters. Yeah.
make your own simple syrups.
We make all of our syrups. I mean, that's too easy not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's water.
Yeah,
Sugar.
yeah. We put it in the blender until it's gone. That's how I do all my syrups, based off of a simple blender syrup, 50-50 by weight. It's easy. My coffee syrup is come from there. I sous vide a lot of syrups, like with cinnamon and strawberry. I put those in for like 2 hours at 140 degrees. I find that works really good with fruit like berries. Cinnamon, it gets just super complex. Blackberries, any kind of flower, like rose petal or lavender or something like that, I sous vide in for the syrup. Sous vide is really cool for syrups. But yeah, I make a lot of bitters. Some have been really good, some really suck. But
And that's part of the fun is the experimentation.
yeah, I've thrown a bunch of shit away. You know, and that's I think that's how you get the good ones. You know. You only get good ones if you sacrifice enough bad ones.
So I know you've been doing this for a long time, Chris. So I mean, what gets you up in the morning every day? I mean, you've been doing this for so long, and now you're kind of living the dream, and you're an owner in this space. I mean, but what drives you?
What gets me up in the morning is my kids. Other than that, I sleep till noon every day. That's part of this
I was
world.
waiting for you to say alarm clock.
Yeah, no, I don't get up in the morning, dude. You want nothing to do with me in the morning unless I'm headed home.
It's part of the culture too. You got to
really
be used
is.
to the off shift.
I think that's the hard. Like when I try to find new hires and stuff like that, I think that's the hardest. That's the biggest challenge. Is it's a long day with a late ending. There's times where you don't get home till 4 or 5 in the morning, and that sucks. But that's. I would say that if you want to do this, for 20 years, which that's not the intention. I think you should be sure that you're a night owl to begin with. Don't let a scheduling conflict. Go ahead and know now.
That's not going to work out.
Nights and weekends are pretty much shot.
That's when everyone goes out to drink.
It's when they go, and it's cut hay when the sun shines. It's that simple. I would love to come in here and bartend on Monday afternoons while my kids were in school, but it's not going to pay the bills, So Fridays and Saturday nights it is.
Well, I know one of the things that we want to ask in this industry spotlight, and Chris, I know you're probably going to laugh at us because you would never ask probably even a customer. You would never ask somebody what's your go-to bourbon because you're going to be like, what do you like?
Sure.
Looking for it. But for our sake and our purpose, I mean, we're definitely interested and intrigued. What is your sort of daily drink or bourbon that you would pick?
I get this question all the time, and I know this is going to sound so rehearsed, and you're probably going to hate me when I'm done. I've never been in a situation where I've had to choose favorites. I have shot down bourbon out of the barrels with the Whiskey Thief. I know they really frown on that.
That's awesome.
I've got pictures of it there. Yeah, and when you're just like, it changes. I don't know. Like, give that a name. What do you call that? Heaven Hill was one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, so I've never I don't drink much at home. If I do, I don't like spending a ton of money. I think when people ask me this question, they expect some grand answer.
Sure.
And usually are surprised when I say less is more. I like bottle and bond. So that's my answer.
So you go to a bottle and bond product?
Absolutely, absolutely. I know what I'm getting. I don't have to look too deep. It's consistently to my flavor profile.
And affordable.
And I mean, I put a $30 limit on it. I don't care if we drink the whole bottle. I don't care if we drink 2 shots. I don't care to show up to a party with a liter of Early Times bottle and bond like we were talking about, take a drink out of it and then leave. It's $20. You know what I mean? It's not the end of the world. So I like that kind of whiskey. And I think if you, I get frustrated when people are like, oh, that stuff's swill, or I don't want to drink, this level and above. It's like, you don't like bourbon then.
But they're also not cognizant to your world, and I think this is something that I teach in the academy. You learn going through the stewardship program is that you can't really have that kind of bias if you're in this business at all, because you're really kind of shutting somebody out from finding something that they may really enjoy by inflicting your opinion on them, I guess.
It's like my favorite distillery question. I don't have a favorite distillery. I mean, there's some releases from some that are exceptional and others that I don't like, and I don't know. I might like things that you would find so totally gross that you wouldn't go near them. It just depends.
How much would you say is atmosphere you're drinking it with? Just
sure.
Company, I mean.
Oh, that's such a thing. Oh, do you have such and such? Man, my buddy of mine gave me a bottle at a wedding, and I just loved it so much. Well, there was singing and dancing and food. It was catered. There was a live band. Of course you liked it. Like, what are you gonna be like? This is swill. Yeah, of course you liked it. So yeah, that's a tough one. I really believe that if you love bourbon the way we all say we love bourbon, then you love bourbon warts and all, and you should be just as happy with a $20 bottle and bond as you are with, you know what I mean? I really like them all, and I can't stand a hater. Can't stand a hater. I hate hearing the term rock gut. I hate hearing swill. I hate when people are like, "Oh, that shit's good for window coming in." That's not what
somebody loves that stuff. And that's why it exists.
Somebody loves it. I do. I love it. You know what I mean? Like,
what's the whiskey business? If everyone hated it, they wouldn't be in business.
I'll tell you my best trick, and you guys, this will be maybe lead with this. Take a what I like to do, like when I go to a party, I'll go buy a liter of bottle and bond. I've got a $30 limit. I don't like spending that much money on it. I'll go buy a bag of frozen cherries and a bottle of like maybe lemon or orange bitters. And you use the frozen cherries like ice. You put your bourbon on top and you give it a couple of dashes with citrus bitters, and you've got like the world's greatest cheater old fashioned. As the fruit melts, it's going to influence the bourbon. It chills the bourbon. It doesn't dilute it, so you're still sipping 100 proof. I mean, it dilutes it a little bit, not much, not like ice does. Killer cocktail, and it costs $30 for enough to get 20 people. That's my best trick. And at 100 proof, we can make lesser whiskey taste great with minimal effort. Just. I don't know.
Yeah, for me, even being a collector, I think everybody says, what's your favorite out of everything that you have? And the reason why I collect is not just because I like to look at it. Sure, it's pretty, but I think it's honestly, I like to have the variety. Some days, maybe I'm in an Old Forester mood, and another, I'm really geared towards the Four Roses, but I guess as I drill down on my palate and what my likes are, I like to just know where I'm going to go and to have options, and that's why I collect. It's more for that reason and not for the bunker bills out there. Yeah.
I've bunkered down a couple of bottles, not much. A Weller 12 is one that I've been stowing away forever, and even then, I mean, I've got fewer than 6 bottles of it. I don't have a ton. I got a ton of VOB 8-year bottle and bond. That stuff was exceptional, and I got the little minis because they were $2 a piece, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's just crap." Okay,
Thank you.
I'll take it. Yeah. And I'm never gonna monetize it. You know what I mean? It's never going to be worth more than the plastic bottle it's in. And to break one of those out from time to time, it's exceptional. You know?
So speaking of which, what bourbon would they be surprised that you would like? What would be like a guilty pleasure that you had in there?
I mean, so the best bottle of bourbon that I've ever had, the one that just screams my name and doesn't shut up, is there was a gift shop only release from Heaven Hill. It was a 15-year-old at 144.6 proof, and it is
William Heaven Hill.
yeah.
That was the
green label one?
The green label. We've had that.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's the second release.
I think it was the second one. Yeah, and it's you gotta get the hazmat, the 144.6. I bought a bunch of it because I was gonna, do my secondary monetizing thing, and there was just no established market for it because nobody had them. And we drank one, and it's like, this stuff's way too good. Like I don't care if I can get a grand a piece for them. I'm not selling these, So every now and then I open one up and we pour it out, and it's God.
Yeah,
God,
it's phenomenal.
Well,
I think it's better than some of the older Willards that I've had too, for sure.
Sure,
In
I've
that-
had some
in that
exceptional older Willets. And we were fortunate enough at the tavern to buy in on a C42 barrel.
But we did,
Yeah, it was a 20-year. We did at 139, and I want to say the yield on it was like $25. I mean, it was so small. It was so small, But yeah, that was exceptional. I mean, yeah, I like those high proof ones. I like the ones that you're expecting your head to get ripped off, and what you get is actually really pleasant.
Well, I know Diageo's national brand educator around bourbon, he mentions that beyond a certain proof, you're not able to taste all the secondary and tertiary flavors that come out of a full proof bourbon.
Sure.
But part of me, where I think that may be true if you dilute and add water and add ice, that you can, even with the type of water and ice, you could probably pull out different flavors that maybe you didn't have before. But I feel like I still feel the complexity in a full proof bourbon.
I think this is the side that nobody wants to talk about, because everyone wants to say if you add a little water, you're going to release new flavors. And they are correct. That is science, it's indisputable. What they don't realize is that most of the time those flavors don't come out until you get down to about 20, 25, 30% alcohol. So we're talking about some pretty substantial pollution in order to get new flavors. But the science is there, I get that. Where I don't like that, and this is for me personally, and this is one of the things I do try to tell people when they order a new whiskey, try it neat, because when you add water, you're increasing the gravity, so you're going to decrease the evaporation. You're going to lose a lot of aroma. You're going to lose your ability to smell it as much, which to some people that might not matter, whatever. Where the difference really comes down to me is when you start adding water, you very quickly lose the texture. You lose that silky
Viscous.
or greasy or whatever that bourbon has.
I know that you had mentioned, Chris, that just a go-to for you would be anything bottled in bond. I know one of your staples here at Bourbon on Rye is the Heaven Hill bottled in bond. It's kind of hard to find now. It used to not be so hard to find, but
impossible because they don't sell it anymore.
Discontinued.
Discontinued, yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, it's one of the reasons I fell in love with this place, because you would solid bourbon and American beer for $5. That was a heck of a deal.
Well, that was one of the things that we kind of tried to build on, was to bring the knowledge of Bluegrass Tavern here. We saved a lot of steps by coming in knowing what products we wanted on the shelf, what we were going to buy a lot of, what we were going to really sink our fangs into.
So kind of know, being in Lexington, it is different because we're kind of in the capital of the bourbon industry. They're probably a little bit higher expectation around it, and so your audience pretty well in this area.
The audience is more
what tourists look like, what regulars are.
But like I said earlier, a lot of my people aren't local. We get a lot of urban tourism, and this is an easy way to educate too. People say, "Oh, Heaven Hill, they make that crappy vodka I threw up on in high school."
Yeah.
But it gives me an opportunity to say, it's not. It's not the same thing. It's really good, you know. So it's kind of cool. It gives me an opportunity to kind of help educate people on a base level as well. You can go to Napa and you can get, you know, these bottles of wine that are only available in Napa. The same with, you know, the winemaking regions of France, Italy, anywhere you go. There's all these limited stuff. But with bourbon, it's not. And I think it goes back to my big producer, small producer thing. This stuff's available everywhere. And especially more so now.
I would say I almost counter argue that to a small degree, and that would be if you go to if we talk about the Napification of Bourbon, and I think that's a big topic right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair topic and something maybe we should have looked at as an industry a long time ago. But for the reason that if you go to a distillery, right, I think you should get something special. I think you should get.
Well, Heaven Hill does. I mean, they've got certain ones.
Heaven Hill's probably the only one that really, because
Four Roses has
Victor's now though.
Victor's. Four Roses will have only certain formulas they sell there.
Four Roses, and I don't want to say anything bad about Four Roses and preface by saying that I love them. I love everything they do. I love the guys that work there, and I understand the binary and by telling me no, but they've had to tell me no for barrels for 2 years now. And coming from the Bluegrass Tavern, I wasn't ready for a no. You know what I mean? Like, I get where they are, and they're making it right. We're fine. Again, they're spread a little thin right now, and it's just like right now. Yeah, just like everybody.
If you're a bourbon distillery, and this is just my opinion, you guys can agree with me or not, but I think sure, it's one thing to have tourists like cattle that come in and they shuffle through your distillery and. You know, you tell them about the Angel's Share, which, you know, you hear the same message, but I think what I like the most about tours and what I like the most about distillery, you know, first off, it's the people that work there, right, that keep coming back, but I think the grounds, the history, maybe their culture, their vision, so if they're a newer player like New Riff, that they're honest, that they're transparent, that they have a good, you know, kind of mission statement around it. But then I think finally, you know, what would make me repeat visit, right? So beyond being a tourist, being somebody that's a Kentucky local, I think give me a reason to stick around, you know? I would love to have a cocktail at Buffalo Trace. I would love to go there and see a private Blanton's barrel pick. Now I know that's not gonna happen today, right, because of demand, but my thought would be, you know, the Napification element, those are the aspects of Napa that I would like to see in distilleries.
Sure.
In defense of the bourbon industry, I remember doing tours and you couldn't drink out of premises.
Oh yeah.
You had to, here's a bourbon. I mean,
yeah.
So this is still real. We're talking Napification, but you know, I just watched a great documentary movie/documentary about, you know, the triumph and, you know, surprise in France where they won. But back then they were farmers. It's been since '76, so it's kind of, they've had 50, 40 years to get to where they are now. We've got 20, maybe at the most. We're talking. I mean, it's been 10, and maybe even 5 since you can go to some of these distilleries and actually drink the product on site.
I don't know what you're talking about. I always have a flask in my pocket.
Okay.
Well,
and to this day,
and even back then though, I would argue that the product was more regularly available, right? Because in the past few years, it's pretty scarce. But back then, you could walk in and find gems. Now, maybe you can't drink it on site,
When we opened up the tavern in '07, we couldn't give a shit.
No.
Nobody drank bourbon. Even in Kentucky, there were a few dieharders, but as far as like the education of the consumer, nothing compared to what we have today. Now everybody's a whiskey expert. Everybody knows bourbon. Everybody's been on every tour. In '07, when we opened that joint, you had to really send out a mailer to try to find somebody who'd been on a bourbon tour. There were, like I said, there were a few, but by and large,
I think we can get to the Napification basis, and we got to get rid of some stupid laws too. I mean, how you can't reward people for buying whiskey in this state for like rewards programs because you don't want to promote drinking.
Well, we talk about
we have a bourbon trail.
We talk about newer distilleries. You know, one that is new that, you know, I've met, like Jeff the Creed, for example. You go there and their bourbon isn't, in my opinion, it's not quite there yet. They've got a great concept. They've got this Bloody Butcher corn, but they do have a bar there, right? And they will make you a cocktail with their products that they have. And they want you to stick around. They want you to hang out on the patio and take in the vision.
Oh yeah,
Castle Key is amazing.
Oh, they took what?
They're leading with that. Like come there for a cocktail is going to be more important than going there for a tour.
I think
Colonel Taylor's idea, which was I want this to be a destination. In fact, I'll extend the rail out.
Yeah.
And that's
way ahead of its time, obviously.
Way ahead of its time. Yeah. I think Colonel Taylor probably did more for the bourbon industry and where it is today than me. I mean, we wouldn't have Bottled and Bond if he didn't go squeezing.
Well, John Carlisle for Bottled and Bond, but also Henry Clay. So I think those 3 people in my mind, for sure.
Well, we needed
Taft. Yeah. Our president.
Well, you know what? He listened, and I think that he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He listened to the case, he heard it, and he under guidance put a really good government guideline. I don't think it was overreaching.
Extra money too.
Oh yeah, they cleaned up.
Yeah.
I mean, that never happens where people don't make money. But whatever. At least we're here. You know, at least we're not. You don't have to run the risk of going blind because you took the bar's house whiskey. You know, I don't know. It's a fascinating part of history. It's cool how we got here.
Very cool. Yeah. So I know that with Heaven Hill, you know, it's 100 proof, but we've talked about barrel strength and what that means to you and I. Being a huge fan of it,
I'll try.
I would say you're not like
I am not a huge fan here.
Yeah,
You
but
don't like strong stuff.
It depends.
Now, is it flavor? Is it palate? Is it effect?
It's a fair. Sometimes it's
Just
too much up front, and then I lose the back end.
Well, it's weird because you double the proof. You don't double the drunk. You quadruple the drunk.
Right.
You know, like you.
It's not only that because I'm like, oh, that's. Like, I have to admit, I'm weird. I'm not a huge fan of 1920.
Yeah.
But I know our whole little group.
I'm a big fan.
I get it. It's like opera. I respect it.
1910, but I love it.
I like both of them.
I love the 1910. I don't want to. Everything in my being is like, no, this is right.
So if I said,
delicious.
give me 1920, but cut it with water because I want some flavor, what do you think about that?
I get it. I mean, you're talking about a high proof whiskey. It's at 115.
Right.
It's a beast. But at 115, I mean, it's a very gentle, easy, approachable 115.
I think so
So
too.
you think water makes
So,
sense to add to it?
You know, we were talking earlier with your infusions. At 115, would probably do an excellent job pulling that mint flavor out. The higher the alcohol, the more flavor it's going to take with it. So you did 101, and it came across pretty well. You do 115, and it'll come out a little bit better. And I think that's a really good, like we talked about Old Granddad 114. That might be a little distinct for infusion. You know what I mean? That's a big, heavy body whiskey.
And I think
Full
anytime,
rye too.
Yeah.
to your point, I mean, you're more of a professional at that aspect of it than I am,
I'm a
but
top seeded amateur.
but I think for me, anytime I want something to hold up in a cocktail, I kind of gravitate to thinking about something that might be a little bit higher proof. Bottled and Bond, I think, would be great just depending on, you know, the type of cocktail. And honestly, for the person that's not a bourbon connoisseur, Bottled and Bond's a great starting point. But if I want to impress somebody, I might use a higher proof in that cocktail so that they can really get the bourbon to stand up.
I think anything less than 100 proof, you're at risk of losing it. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
By the time you're done stirring or shaking, diluting with whatever other ingredients you're putting in, you might not have much bourbon left.
Yeah.
You know?
And one of the ones that I talk about for that, and I think it was created for that reason specifically, is Woodford, because the oakiness of that holds up pretty darn well for being a lower proof bourbon, I think.
Right.
And I think that's why they made it the way they did.
We just touched on the one bourbon I don't particularly have. Woodford is very oaky, very wood forward bourbon, and for that I I don't like it. I feel like it's off balance. You know, I feel like it's too much wood and not enough other stuff. It's just off balance, you know. So when I say I don't like it, I'm like, still, I'm happy to drink it.
Yeah.
You know, if you brought a bottle to my
Someone
house,
we're not gonna
thanks,
say.
man. Yeah.
But I think I like double oaked to sip on, and I like double oaked for cocktails because it has that level of extra, you know, in a toasted barrel and that caramelization. Like, I'm a big fan of that element of it, but I wouldn't say I don't love the standard Woodford product, but I think I like double oaked for the reason that it's versatile. I can sip on it or it can make a cocktail, but I don't think of it as I think of it as a utility bourbon, I guess. You know, that's where I'm at.
I like the double a lot more than the regular. However, I don't think either of I don't think I could just sit and drink the double, and it gets better as I get drunker.
I think it's a dessert pour for sure.
I do too, but I think like one tops.
Yeah.
And then it's just too much, you know, kind of like that 1910. 1910's a beast, but after a couple of pours, you start. It's like, this is, you know what I mean? You kind of lose the novelty. I hate to say novelty because it's not a gimmick, you know. I mean,
I think
it's legit.
1910 is Old Forester's. I mean, obviously it's the same company.
Yeah,
They're double oaked.
Yeah. It's still look for half
But I also
price.
think
I think it drives that.
It's a dessert pour again. For me, it would be a great nightcap. I think it's like that port. If you're a wine drinker, you would have that, you know, beyond when you're done kind of thing. But yeah, to your point, one glass.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It stimulates. It's overstimulation. This I could drink all night.
Yeah.
You know, neat cocktail, whatever.
Chris, you know, just final thought of being an owner and in this business. If you had a message for a bourbon enthusiast audience, you know, if you had one sentence or one phrase to sum it all up, what would you tell them?
Jesus.
I mean, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah, that's a
I
lot.
mean, drinking bourbon, you know,
I,
we're gonna get philosophical here.
I love this. If you do, that's great. Don't add water to your bourbon. Stay in school.
Soda water.
I mean, whatever, man. The bubbles just help it get to your blood a little quicker. You get quicker.
ABC training.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want bubbles in your whiskey, knock it out. It's up to you. I don't think there's a wrong way to do it. I think you should appreciate the game. I hate haters. I really hate haters. Approach them all. Like I said, this is a $12 bottle, and here we are really enjoying it. You don't have to go broke to know what you're talking about. I don't know. I sure do love my bourbon. I hope to make more of it.
Yes.
So Bourbon on Rye and the Seltzer Club, they are open. What's your normal schedule?
We're Wednesday through Saturday from 4 p.m. till we close. By law, that's 2:30. By opportunity, that's by opportunity. Yeah.
And that's right here in downtown Lexington. So if you guys want to come,
Looking at the new hotel right across the street from us.
Downtown.
downtown Lexington.
Outskirts.
No.
Right here in the thick of it all. Well, Chris, we're really thankful for you to show us your hospitality and your really good bottled and bond whiskey. Thanks for having us.
So you want me to close your tab?
Yes.
No, it's like,
We want to make sure you get paid.
I'll be sure the
Help with the-
hospitality thing doesn't go too far.
Yeah.
help with the infusion.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's cool. So wrapping up, visit Seltzer Club and Bourbon on Rye. Some wonderful cocktails, some great bourbon selection.
Say hi to Chris and James. Take care of them. But again, I'm John.
I'm James.
This is Let's Talk Bourbon. Thanks.
You.
Hey guys, thanks for watching another Let's Talk Bourbon episode. Again, we want to invite you guys to like and subscribe.
Comments are always welcome. We'll take them any other great places. We enjoyed the Seltzer Club. Thank you, Chris. And Bourbon on Rye is awesome.
And if you guys,
He's behind us though.
he's behind us, I think. I've
That's awesome.
got a feeling.
Yes.
But if you guys like this video, or if you have other areas that you would like us to explore, let us know in the comments below. We would love to hear where else in Lexington, Louisville, or other bourbon bars that you maybe want us to explore. But we thank you again for watching, and we hope you enjoyed.
We'll see you on the YouTubes here in the next few weeks.
Drink more bourbon.
Amen. Enjoy the spirits.
Thanks, guys.
So we do